Does it feel like you're having the same argument over and over again and you completely feel misunderstood? Are you working hard to find the words to explain what it is you're feeling? Trying hard to convey your position in this ideal or this concept or this thing that you're going through. And for the longest time, it seems like your husband just don't understand. Maybe he's listening really hard, and he's trying to understand you. But at the end, it feels like you all are having two different conversations. I want to tell you that there is a reason that is happening. It's not your fault and it's not his fault, but there's an enemy in your communication that neither of you are addressing. And until you deal with that enemy, you will continue to have conversations and feel misunderstood. Listen, today I want to share with you 3 things that's stopping you and your spouse from communicating in a way that brings connection and love and understanding, and that's constantly creating for you the disconnection that you're feeling. The first thing is what I call mind monsters. Mind monsters are those insecurities, those beliefs, those thoughts that we already have about ourselves that we bring with us into the marriage that go unexamined. Maybe he says, I don't like that dress. And what you hear is, you don't like me. Because perhaps in your past, somewhere along the way, you was mistreated. Perhaps she says, you never listen. And what you hear is, I can't get anything right. That is not what she said, but she can't help how you hear it, how you filter it. Because of what I call these mind monsters, your emotional filters due to childhood wounds, you can never hear correctly what your spouse is saying. I'm not blaming you for that. I'm just trying to make you aware that you have these emotional wounds that filters everything you hear. So perhaps the reason you and your spouse aren't getting along, or the reason you keep having the same conversation but nothing seems to change, is because what your partner says and what you hear is so different. And the fight continues to be about trying to get one another to hear what the other person is saying, when the true war is internal. And until you begin to address the internal wounds being the thoughts and beliefs that you have about yourself, that's causing you to always hear what your spouse say as an attack, or it's negative, or as you're doing something wrong. It doesn't matter how they say it or what they say. You're going to continue to hear what you hear until you address the wounds. So here are the wounds you need to address. Perhaps when you was growing up, you grew up in an environment where maybe your father wasn't there. There's a teaching that teaches us that when our fathers aren't available, maybe he's present, but he's not emotionally available. Or perhaps he passed away. Or maybe he was there, but you didn't have the relationship you fantasize of father and daughter relationship should be. So in having that type of, or not having that type of relationship with your father, you get a rejection wound. So everything that you now are moving through life, you receive it through a wound of rejection. So you always assume the worst. You oftentimes feel like when things aren't going your way, or someone says anything to you that you perceive as negative, you receive it as rejection. So if they criticize your work, your food, your clothing, you take it personally. You think they're criticizing you when they are actually talking about something else. You'll see this on your job. You'll see this especially in your marriage. It's almost like your spouse can't say anything because without you thinking about it or realizing it, you're seeing it through the rejection, the wound of rejection. The way it often shows up in a husband is when their moms aren't available to them in the way they need. As a young boy, they experience the abandonment wound. So everything you do makes them feel like you're going to leave them. They're not enough. No matter what they do is not right. So you're saying one thing, you're trying to convey your feelings or your thoughts about a situation, and he takes it as an attack. He gets extremely defensive. Maybe he even shuts down because the little boy in him is still trying to earn his mother approval. And the thing he fears most is that you're going to leave him. You're not going to see him. You're not going to love him. So he shuts down. I want you to realize that we all have these emotional wounds. We have these filters that we are seeing life through. And so even though you're going to the experts and you're listening to people tell you strategies on communication, strategies like active listening, when they're talking, don't interrupt. Listen for understanding. Perhaps they tell you things like validate what you hear. Oh, I hear you say that what I did hurt your feelings. But here's the problem when you're dealing with a deep emotional wound. You can't always hear what they're saying because you're so busy, your mind, at taking it personally. You don't even know you're doing it most of the time. But your spouse feels it because when they're trying so desperately to communicate with you, to get you to understand what they feel, you do what some in therapy call kidnap the conversation. So instead of listening to your spouse and hearing their heart and what they are trying to share, you immediately turn the conversation around. You begin to make it about you. You begin to share with them the things they do wrong that hurt you and offend you. And this is leading to constant detachment and feelings of disconnection. And here you are, two people who truly love one another, but can't seem to find a way to connect, to get back to the intimacy you once had. When there was a time when all you did was love and adore one another. But now it seems all you do is clash. I want you to understand, until you start working on the deeper issue, you can take all the communication classes you want. You can learn all the strategies for communicating, like active listening, like listening for understanding, like validating and summarizing what your partner says. But here's the problem. If you're not dealing with your own mind monsters, if you're not clearing up that emotional space inside of your heart and your head, it's hard to summarize what they say with clarity when you're summarizing it through your own filter of hurt, rejection, pain, abandonment, neglect, and worst of all, humiliation. So if that is something that piques your interest, if that is something that makes you think, could that be what's happening in my marriage? If this is opening your eyes and your mind to the idea that maybe this is what's happening in your marriage, do yourself a favor, reach out. Reach out to me or another therapist or coach or someone who can help you clear up what I call those mind monsters so that you and your spouse can begin to have a communication that is effective, that is loving, and that draws you together instead of push you apart. Listen, I'm fully aware that most of us want to have a loving, happy marriage, but that's hard to do when we have minds that are full of what I call like stinking thinking or garbage or hurt from our past. So I want to encourage you to do like the Bible says, to renew your mind daily. And with a renewed mind, you can begin to think your way to a better marriage. Have a great day.